What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan.
How's it going?
Pretty well. How about you?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome.
Thank you for asking.
Awesome. And we're also joined through the power of the internet by our friend Christian Puente, a.k.a. PixelBrave. How's it going, Christian?
And they're, hey, doing well. Really glad to be here.
Awesome.
I'm excited to talk Kingdom Hearts again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we see that. So, spoiler, that's our big topic for today is just because...
dang.
No, you're good,
Dang,
man. They see the title card already.
Thanks
They know the
a
episode
lot,
title.
BB.
But anyway, so, that's no big deal. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts, and I think this is going to be a very interesting thing. But Christian, he has talked about it a lot recently, but because he's a massive fan of the game. But we'll get to that in the game and the series. But we'll get to that in just a second. But for now, Team Chat Podcast is a video game show where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. New episodes come out Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can listen to those on podcast services around the World Wide Web, as well as other places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and others. You can also watch a video version of each episode on YouTube and Twitch. Links for all those things are in the description below. Also, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we have a Discord channel. Again, links are in the description. And finally, we are a completely listener-supported show, so if you're loving what we are creating each and every week, head over to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show, and in return, we'll give you a couple cool perks, like getting the episodes early before their general Tuesday release, and access to a private channel on our Discord server, the Rogues Gallery.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
You haven't nailed it in a while.
I know. I was feeling good. And then I started getting nervous there at the end. And then it was kind of started hard to breathe. And I was like, oh my God, I got to nail this perfect finish. But
You stuck
there
the
it is.
landing, as
Thank
they
you.
might say.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
And on that one. But before we get into the moment with Mogan and all that, we wanted to no, we're not doing it yet. It's time for Christian to introduce himself and let everybody know who isn't familiar with him already, who he is and what he does. So,
Well, my name is Christian, and I'm an event videographer. I've met a lot of people, including you guys, like just through different online communities and, sharing these different videos from the events that I attend to where we all, get to hang out and stuff. And I'm very glad that these videos have caught you guys' eye and everybody else's eye, and people are enjoying these videos. And you can find videos like that anywhere on social media under the name PixelBrave. Usually Twitter is where I'll post stuff like that, but anywhere you can find PixelBrave, either YouTube, look out for videos where I'm just, sharing the love, whatever geek and pop culture events I'm able to attend, and, hopefully meet fellow, kindred souls and spirits that like geeking out and stuff.
awesome, man. That's awesome. And that's how we got connected is through, we're both what would they call kind of funny best friends. And so we actually met up the first time at a meet and greet, or at least we're in the same meet and greet at Rooster Teeth 2015, the one that they had at Easy Tiger downtown. And then we connected on Twitter, followed each other and stuff. But then Christian actually at the beginning of this year did something that was I considered fairly brave because it's something I've thought about doing myself, but then never could quite pull the trigger on. You put out a video on your Twitter, basically asking to collaborate with people and to find people to work. And so that's when I, reached out and said, hey man, like let's figure out something to do and all that stuff. And so this has been, I feel like something I've wanted to do for a while, but like I said, I was a little too chicken to pull the trigger first.
It's a unique skill to be the person who does the reaching out.
I know.
Absolutely.
And he's got it.
He's got it. You might even say he's got the ability to connect to other people's hearts.
Much like the game we'll be talking
Much
about
like
today.
the game we're about to talk about.
But before we jump into that, we do have to do our moment with Mogan to find out what games are coming out soon and any other news and tidbits from the gaming industry world.
So, out now, as of today, February 19th, we have Yakuza Kiwami coming out for PC. Coming very soon on the 22nd, we have Anthem for
Nice.
PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And then just a quick recap of, in case you missed it, Civilization 6 Gathering Storm did come out on February 14th, just in time for Valentine's Day. You also had over the weekend Crackdown 3 for Xbox One and PC, along with Metro Exodus for PS4, Xbox One, and PC as well. And finally, Far Cry New Dawn for PS4, Xbox One, and PC as well, all of which came out on the 15th.
Boom, some big releases this month. I can't
For
remember.
real, and all at the same time.
Yeah, it's a big month here at the end of February. But I can't remember when we met up a few weeks ago. Did we talk about if you were interested in Anthem at all?
We might have talked about it. I mean, ever since just the announcement of Anthem, I think it's been something everybody's been kind of keeping their eye on, even if
Right.
it's not, traditionally what they'd even be into. I finally saw for the first time like a GIF or image that finally sparked my interest, because usually I don't play shooters, let alone sci-fi shooters. I'm more of like interested in fantasy kind of worlds. But this one, because there's this kind of magical element to it, kind of reminds me of that. And I saw that in one of these GIFs and stuff, and so it's kind of piquing my interest a little bit. We'll see if I can make time for it or something. But
Nice.
I at least hope everybody else enjoys it.
Yeah, because by the time this episode comes out, it's like 2 days away.
Right. So actually, I have
Close
a quick
upon us.
question for you that I think maybe we haven't touched on quite yet in your intro. So aside from Kingdom Hearts, obviously, what are some of the other games you like to play?
Well, first off, I don't play nearly as many games as people think. I usually I made a tweet joke about this the other day about like I haven't beaten a game from beginning to end since Final Fantasy 15.
Well, that was fairly recent. That was fairly recent.
I start a lot of games, and when I do start a game, it's usually a JRPG. I really like the grind. I really like, going off on an adventure, things like that. Anything with a storyline, especially anything with feels, or kind of an emotional resonance, which is a big reason why I'm really into Kingdom Hearts. But instead of going into vague terms, I can like name a few things. Like some of my favorite franchises are like the Dragon Quest series. I was like dabbling in a Final Fantasy game, even if I don't finish it or something like that. Those are just kind of a name a few. I will like dive into like some platformer shooters, kind of like Uncharted, because like those are just like so well done. How do you not at least get some enjoyment out of it? So those are kind of what I usually play.
Controversial
JRPGs.
statement there from Mogan. She actually is like
Over
not
here
a fan
trying to
of
not
Uncharted.
throw up onto the
Uncharted fan
mic
at all.
because I hate Uncharted so much.
Hey, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Oh boy! I actually had a question. Because of your name, PixelBrave, are you a fan of the Bravely Default series?
I am.
Okay, thank God. I wondered if that was
so
because of or just sort of adjacent to that. I love the Bravely games so much.
It's just a coincidence, and that's another like asterisk thing. Like, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm a very big fan of what I have played of Bravely Default, and
that's perfectly
I'm looking
fine.
forward to finishing it so I can move on to the second one too. And I think they even got more coming out that are spin-offs and stuff that are announced or on the periphery. I don't know if we'll ever get them here, but they're definitely at least announced for over there in Japan.
Right.
Very cool.
But
All right. It's time to move on to this. I don't know what to think about what's going to happen here, because this is the interesting
So-
thing about this. I have never played any of these games. Mogan has played. You've played what so
I've
far?
played 1 and 2. Caveat, much like what Pixel was saying earlier, I've played them. I've beaten neither of them on my own. And so I've seen other people play them through to completion, but usually at one point or another, I would get stuck on a boss and be like, you know what? I have a younger brother for this. I'm just going to watch him beat the game. So I adore the Kingdom Hearts series, but I have not played any of what I would consider to be the auxiliary games, which would primarily be the ones that came out for handhelds specifically. There are literally more than I think I even can name.
Yeah.
When I was watching the homework that I gave you for the what you need to know before you play Kingdom Hearts video that we both watched on
Yeah.
YouTube, a lot of the gameplay footage that they had spliced in for the game, I was like, I have no idea what game that's from.
Right.
So there's definitely information that I'm missing that probably is crucial to the story. And I only have what I would consider to be the primary fragments of the whole.
Nice. But then, Christian, you have played it. Played not only the whole series, but like how many times have you played Kingdom Hearts 3 already?
How many? So with the main, with the series, I've at least played through each game once, and then jumped into a few for replaying, but don't always finish. But as far as Kingdom Hearts 3 so far, I've played it twice. Once in Japanese, and then I played it again with the English release.
What?
And I'm about to play it a third time. I'm ready to boot it up because all these people, all these really great content creators have been like putting out a lot of really great tips about like, hey, if you do this thing, then you unlock this really great feature. And I'm like, wow, I want that. So I'm going to go back and play it now that I have all these great resources of how to, I don't want to say enjoy the game better, but enjoy it in a new kind of way that I did the first two times.
Wow.
Right on. So,
impressive.
quick question. Do you speak Japanese?
not fluently. I studied a few years in college, and I still am self-teaching myself. I forgot a lot of it, so I'm kind of reteaching myself. But I have maintained enough to where I can play the game and at least know where to go, and when there's dialogue going on, I can make out. I'm being generous with this. I feel like I understand. Understanding and speaking is another thing.
Absolutely.
I don't feel like I could speak very well. But as far as understanding what's going on, not only with whatever language I do understand, but like given the visual cues, I feel like I'm understanding about 85% of the context.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
And-
extremely impressive. And I feel like,
and-
especially with video games, it's such a good opportunity to brush up on those skills, especially with ones that you're like, what if they never make it to English? What if they never make it to the West? So that's a skill that I would kill to have.
All right.
It's been fun.
So if we look at this then, so basically then I'm feeling like this conversation is going to be between you two because I'm just going to jump in where I have questions because the only thing I know about this is the 36-minute video that Mogan sent me today and said, hey, watch this so you at least
I
have
sent
some
it to
idea.
you yesterday.
Okay, well, I watched it today.
2 days ago. 2 days ago.
Busy 2 days ago.
I
But
totally love questions about the story, though. I totally embrace like questions and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
once we get to the
because-
spoiler full section of the episode, we'll be able to really lay it on you. But
because
we do,
I watched that video and I still have like a very little idea of what's going on.
Though. So you haven't played any of them at all, but like
No.
through maybe visiting friends or whatever. Like, have you seen some of it through gameplay? I'm talking
Honestly,
about
no.
besides
Like
YouTube
I've seen like
summaries or
the gameplay, like cutscene footage and stuff that was in this video that Mogan sent me, but really no. This is one that I literally have zero knowledge about, and this is why I'm so excited.
so
about
I do
this.
actually think that this would kind of be a fun opportunity then, based on your somewhat very limited exposure to Kingdom Hearts. Give us a summary so far. What do you think is happening?
Okay,
What's the gist? What do you gather is the point of the games?
there are like these. Basically, if I can try to sum it up in like 1-2 sentences,
1 to 2
I don't know,
sentences.
and because this is
Somebody
how
else
limited
needed
my
a
knowledge is.
36-minute video. Okay.
Basically, there's a group. This one like Keyblade was split into 21 pieces.
Okay.
20 pieces. 13 darkness, 7 light.
So 21 was originally correct. Wait, is it?
No.
I'm so bad at math.
It's 20. I'm bad at math too. This is a bad combination right now. But
It would
but
be
no, so
14
it'd
and
be-
7. I'm so dumb.
That's what I mean. I had to think about it too, so don't feel bad. But anyway, so there's all those, and then the people of the light who have the light can wield keyblades.
right on.
Okay.
You've got you're doing good.
There are a bunch of characters, and they can have like different versions of themselves. A heartless.
Yeah, you're doing great.
A nobody.
Yeah, you're doing so good.
He's
And
got
then there's like the world that never was and all these different kingdoms. But anyway, so there are these keyholes that are basically portals to other worlds and realms.
You're doing so good.
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So, okay. But then what I could not keep up with was which characters were alive and whose body they were in, but then regenerated inside another person's. I got lost there.
That is perfectly
You
okay
are
because
literally quoting scenes from Kingdom Hearts 3.
All right.
Now.
Well, that makes
when
me
you say,
feel better.
Yeah.
When you say, wait, I don't get it. Who's in whose heart and why and that's literally like
that's
That's in the game.
50% of Sora's total lines. It's like, wait,
Because
I
I,
don't
saw
get
he
it.
doesn't have a memory anymore. He was all just like, "Hey, I'm in this magic tower with some
Yen
wizard-
Sid.
Yen
It's
Sid."
Disney backwards, you fool.
Oh,
Right? So clever.
clever.
I know.
that's
Those
the same
sneaky
reaction I had when I figured out
bastards.
Alucard was Dracula backwards. But whatever. Here we are.
Wow, Jared, come on.
I figured that out a long time ago. I was much younger.
Yeah, so you definitely have the gist.
Okay.
So
Enough to get started.
enough to get started,
All right.
which is saying something, especially with the scope of ambition that Square was trying to originally accomplish with the Kingdom Hearts series. It's
baffling.
It's a very tall order to expect that they would be able to tie up every last thread perfectly.
Right.
And I have not finished Kingdom Hearts 3 yet. I'm not entirely confident at this point that all of the threads that have been left sort of unfinished by at least Kingdom Hearts 2 are going to be fully realized, but that's what we have an expert for.
Exactly.
That's what PB is here for. So going off of what Jerrett just told us with his super well done.
Thank you.
And very, very impressive summary of kind of what Kingdom Hearts has been up until now. What's your perspective on what the story has been thus far and what you expected out of Kingdom Hearts 3?
Well, quick thing. I just wanted, before we jump into this, I just want to remind everybody, in case this is your first time listening to the show, we're going to do this first bit of our review, or first impressions in Mogan's case, and Kingdom Hearts 101 for me. We're going to start off. The first part of this is going to be spoiler free. We're going to be talking about like how the game Kingdom Hearts 3 relates to others in the series. We're high level story points, or how like early points of the game, mechanics and different things like that each of them like about the game. Then we'll jump into the spoilers zone, where they'll talk about anything and everything, and I'll ask my questions and my dumb questions and my smart questions, trying to understand this game.
But for the building blocks of leading up to Kingdom Hearts 3, there definitely will be spoiler-full talk of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, because they were literally decades ago. A lot happened in those games, and you really can't have any meaningful conversation about the value of Kingdom Hearts 3 without explaining sort of what happened in the past.
Right. So, let us begin.
So,
take it away.
Quick summary. Pixel, you want to take it away? What happened in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and everything in between to get us caught up to speed?
So we're doing a summary?
We're doing the briefest summary you can manage.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah. How many more sentences do you think you need than Jerrett? I'm just kidding. You go right ahead.
Take as much time.
I usually keep it pretty short and simple. There's lots of stuff that people... And I'm kind of like... This is kind of my prologue before the story. Actually, just like given context that like I think a lot of people, when they mess up the storytelling of this, if I want to make a comparison to Old Republic, to Star Wars, like if you want to retell Star Wars, start with Luke. There was once a kid named Luke. He wanted more in life. He got into an adventure and this and that. But the way people usually tell Kingdom Hearts story, they always start at the beginning of the chronology. And that's like if someone said, "Hey, tell me about Star Wars," and I said, "Well, thousands of years ago in the Old Republic," I was like, "Why? Why are you doing this?" So I usually tell Kingdom Hearts the story in the order the game releases, and sometimes I even get a few turned around, but more or less I keep it in the release. So that's kind of what the approach I'll be going with right now.
Okay.
So the Kingdom Hearts is the story of Sora. It will always be the story of Sora, and it starts off with him and his two best friends. They're on an island that they play with, and they're talking about this adventure they're going to go on. They're going to go see the worlds out there, but little do they know behind the scenes that someone by the name of Ansem is spreading darkness throughout the world, and so through different events, Sora combats that darkness and then protects the worlds, but is ultimately still separated from his two best friends, which he's been trying to reconnect with throughout this whole journey. And so that's kind of how Kingdom Hearts 1 is left. He's fought the darkness, overcome it, but is still separated from his friends, so we're assuming in later stories he will keep looking for them. That takes us in a chain of memories. On his journey, he comes upon a castle inhabited by an organization, and as he scales the castle to try to find who he thinks will be his friends, all he's told is that you'll find what you're looking for at the top of this castle. He assumes it must be his friends Riku and Kairi. But as he scales the tower, the castle, he starts losing his memories, which is all part of the organization's plan. All the while, Riku, his friend who's been looking for, is also going through the basement levels, also trying to find who he's lost. At the end, both Riku and Sora, separately, one's in the top levels, one at the bottom levels, they are able to overcome the inhabitant, this organization member, and kind of continue looking for the people they've lost. Sora has come out a bit stronger, but the result of him overcoming this organization is losing all memories of even what happened there, in order to, progress with his story. And Riku, though, came out stronger, having overcome the darkness that had been growing inside him. He, was not as pure as Sora, Pure always fights on the side of light when Riku usually dabbles in darkness. And then we'll pick up in Kingdom Hearts 2. Sora, in order to, as I mentioned, he lost a bunch of his memories in the Castle Oblivion, which is what the name of the castle was. And so Kingdom Hearts starts with Sora in a coma, kind of. He's in a deep sleep, recovering and having his memories rebuilt by someone who was kind of being also held captive by the organization and was. I'm super going over a lot of things here.
This is honestly making way more sense to me though than the video I watched.
Yeah, it's already really good.
This is great.
As possible. There's so many people probably thinking like, why are you skipping over all this important stuff? And that's because, like I said, I'm trying to get just
because it would take us 36 whole minutes to discuss the other stuff.
Right.
Kingdom Hearts 2, Sora has his memories put back together, and so now he's woken up to find out there's a new menace out there disturbing the world, and so he needs to go defeat this new enemy. He does finally, through his adventures, reconnect with the friends he had lost, Kairi and Riku, and the three overcome, the new enemies known as the Nobodies, which is that same organization that we'd met in Castle Oblivion, but now we are seeing them kind of in full force, whereas in the Chain of Memories there was just a few of them. And they're able to overcome these villains led by a man named Xemnas, who is actually the kind of layman terms like the mirror reflection of Ansem, who was the villain in Kingdom Hearts 1. Turns out through different story plots that both Ansem, the boss of Kingdom Hearts 1, and Xemnas, the boss of Kingdom Hearts 2, are both halves of a whole man named Xehanort. That's where things are going to start getting really weird.
Okay. I'm still on board so far. I'm still with you.
Yeah. Let's take a pause with the story, though. We're going to rewind time, actually, and go back to that time when Sora was going through Castle Oblivion. There's this whole other side story going on where you find out that much like Xemnas is a mirror of Ansem, there's a mirror person out there that's a reflection of Sora named Roxas. And there's lots of details about Roxas and how he came about to be someone who's in another way, another version of Sora. You mentioned, there's different versions of people. So that's the first other version we meet of Sora. That's Roxas. And you find out all about Roxas and, the time he spent in the organization before he left it. And that's important because in general, Kingdom Hearts is about the connections we make, whether we know about them or not, and this just goes to show there's this whole other story that's connected to Sora, and he doesn't even know about it. That's just one of the many strands going on that we're going to try to tackle here. And then, 358 Days Over 2 is the name of that game that takes place parallel to Chain of Memories, and I'm not sure how much time to spend on that because it's kind of a side story, but it's a very heartful and emotional story. That's
everything about Kingdom Hearts is heartful. 100%.
I will say that. It looks like everything is like emotionally fueled in this game.
Yeah,
like every scene is going to give you a different feel.
There is no game series more invested in friendship than Kingdom Hearts to the nth degree. It's fantastic.
Nice.
And then, so after we've learned about Roxas and his whole story about his time with the organization, who were the bad guys. So it's interesting. We're seeing this good guy who doesn't realize he's part of a bad crowd until the end of the game. And it turns out that him deciding to... I'm gonna just table that because I'm gonna start getting into the weeds if I do that. So I've told the kind of little bits of 358. We're gonna rewind time a bit back more.
Okay.
10 years before Kingdom Hearts 1. I mentioned Xehanort, the person that would eventually become split into Ansem and Xemnas. Back in the day, 10 years before, he was actually a Keyblade master. There were a lot more Keyblade masters back then. And in Birth by Sleep, the game takes place 10 years before Kingdom Hearts 1. We find out about Xehanort's the first time he tried unleashing his evil plans upon the world. And during that time, we follow the story of three Keyblade wielders in training and how they are all three manipulated, separated, and all meet very tragic ends.
Oh no!
At that game, because Xehanort is just so evil and so good at just causing trauma to just hopeful people who just want to have happy lives. And that game ends with a very hopeful scene that maybe Sora just might be the person to save these three who've suffered so many years ago. We're going to kind of catch up to the past. After Kingdom Hearts 2, by the way, there was when everybody's saying, hey, we've saved the world, let's live our happy lives. They ended up getting a message in a bottle from King Mickey, who's king of all the Disney worlds, and we never know what's in that bottle until the game Recoded, which is just a game that a lot of people dismissed, but if I want to give you the bits and pieces of it, basically, there is a hidden message left for Sora saying, hey, in case you didn't know, there are these three kids, and Xehanort messed them all up, so if you're not too busy, could you kind of save them? You know, it would really mean a lot. You've saved the world twice. How about we save these three guys? Because, you know, we really could use their help. Because it turns out that after you defeated Ansem in Kingdom Hearts 1 and Xemnas in Kingdom Hearts 2, they reunited to become one whole Xehanort all over again. That evil guy that messed things up so bad 10 years ago. So
He Voldemorted.
Yeah.
He used all of his Horcruxes to bring himself back together, and now he's back, baby.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. Okay. I'm on board still. I'm with you.
So, yeah, so Coded's like, hey, Sora, we really need your help, so would you come take a little exam, the Mark of Mastery? That way we can make you a full-fledged, you know, Keyblade master. And that's what takes into the next game, Dream Drop Distance, which is all about Sora and Riku, who are both now, you know, they've sometimes been on opposite ends of the fight, they've been on the same side and different things, but now they're both, you know, taking this test together to both prove themselves as masters to unlock new powers that will help them in the fight against Xehanort. And that's Dream Drop Distance. You end up finding things are getting way more complicated, and that Xehanort has returned, and he has a new goal. His goal has always been to unlock Kingdom Hearts. And whether it's been through his Ansem form or his Xemnas form or his original form 10 years ago, anytime you see someone out there causing mischief, they're trying to get Kingdom Hearts, which is, you know, the source of all light and power, things like that. And his latest attempt to unlock Kingdom Hearts is by what do you call it? Hijacking Sora's test and manipulating him into falling into darkness.
I remember that from the video.
Darkness, in case you didn't know, not a very good thing. But luckily, through several events, Riku's able to save Sora from falling into darkness, and Riku comes out as a master. He's a Keyblade master. Congratulations. Gets the diploma, walks off the stage, throws a hat. But Sora is not. Sora, unfortunately, came pretty close to being taken over, so it's like, hey, you need to go get a little stronger before you can fight. And that's what leads us into Kingdom Hearts 3.
Alrighty. Cool.
An excellent, succinct, trim all the non-necessary fat summary.
I mean, that honestly, that makes so much more sense to me than the video I watched.
And that
'cause
actually
they were like
helped,
naming names and jumping all over the place. And I was just like,
that really helped line up
lost.
the sequence of events from the actual games for me, which is something that I'm like, now what happened in Recoded?
Okay.
What's Dream Drop Distance now?
I didn't realize there were so many auxiliary games.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying, is that I've only played 2, and
Yeah.
they're not even the auxiliary games, and a lot happened in those games.
That's crazy.
But that does indeed bring us up to speed more or less with what's going to transpire then in Kingdom Hearts 3. So that
And
is
of course,
indeed...
I did skip over a lot. There's a lot of really
Yeah.
great
There's a
character
lot of-
building
Yeah,
and
I
moments
gathered
and
that.
twists and turns. All I gave there was just the sampler. The sampler
The
to
bullet
get you
points.
guys, anyone listening, maybe feel like, you know what? I kind of followed along. Maybe if I play the game, you know, I can get everything else that fits there in between.
Absolutely. So in terms of the non-spoiler discussion then about Kingdom Hearts 3, let's talk about the actual gameplay.
Okay.
So Kingdom Hearts 3 is of course coming out 10 years, after Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out for the PlayStation 2 many moons ago, and maybe the Xbox One. I actually don't remember if it was
The
for
original
Xbox at the
Xbox.
time. Yeah, I think.
Right?
Yeah,
No,
you're
this is
right.
the
They
Xbox
didn't,
One is
they
the
didn't
one
even
to
call it
clarify.
Xbox One back then. It
Right.
was just
Just
Xbox.
Xbox.
I'm actually not sure if
So-
that was the correct gen. Wouldn't it have been Xbox 360?
Well, Kingdom Hearts has never showed up on Xbox until 3.
There
Oh,
we
okay.
go.
Okay.
That was the answer I was looking for
go.
because I couldn't remember.
He's got the
I never owned an Xbox. I wouldn't know. So think of PS2 era in terms of technical specs and sheer ability of what the technology can accomplish
Right.
versus what the PlayStation 4 can do. I wouldn't know personally because I didn't bother to flush my time and soul down the drain, but compare Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 4, and that gives you a general idea of what is at least graphically and I don't know how else to say it, powerfully possible,
Right.
In terms of the processor that the game can accomplish. So my very first impression of the game when I booted it up, went through the initial cutscene, which I skipped because I was like, I don't know what's happening. Just take me to the start screen immediately. It was very confusing. I was like, there's a lot of colors
Was it
happening.
trying to give a recap in that?
I don't know. I
So
skipped it.
I can answer that. So when you start the game, there is a menu trailer. You know, when you don't touch the control and it starts playing something, it will give you a recap of all the games, and it hits most of the important events. So if you had never played anything and wanted to start Kingdom Hearts 3, you could technically watch through that menu trailer a few times and kind of be like, oh, okay, I can visually kind of see what's going on here. You know?
Okay.
And maybe for people
by
that
the way, the game does come with a feature called Memory Archive.
Yes!
Which is a kind of a very short retelling. I think it's a 5-part retelling of the series.
Okay.
It's not my favorite summary, but I think, you know, if you have nothing else to work with, it's not a bad place to start.
Yeah,
that is a nice feature,
I
especially
definitely
because
wanted
of the
to
gap
touch
between
on
2
that.
and 3.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you are a dedicated fan of the series, but the only ones you've played are 1 and 2, having any type of built-in recap within the game itself, that's a fantastic feature.
Right.
Especially because being a sequel and being the final installment in a trilogy, per se, Kingdom Hearts 3 has a lot of story to be falling back on, and you can't brush that all under the rug and solely rely on the technical aspects of the game. However, that being said, I think it's a really smooth gameplay experience. I will say that what I personally have played so far, I think I'm about 4 to 5 Disney worlds into Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, I made a lot of progress. I was like, I'm going to sit down on my exercise ball and go nowhere this weekend. That's exactly what I did.
It sounds like a great weekend.
It was okay.
Oh, okay.
So in terms of gameplay time, I think I've put at least 10 to 12 hours into it. There were at least a handful of scenes, like cutscenes, that I genuinely did skip, most of them centering around the Disney story aspects that I already knew. So I was thinking, I don't really need this. I've seen the movie. I've seen Tangled 5 times. I don't need this story recap. So in terms of what I actually experienced playing the game and how it handles, it feels fantastic. Getting started, I will say probably in the span of the first 2 worlds, the game kind of throws a lot of gameplay aspects at you in what I felt was a fairly quick succession.
Okay.
So, of course, it's in a certain sense a button masher. I use that.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it from what I feel like I maybe have seen from commercials and different things like that? Is it similar in style to like Ratchet and Clank?
No.
No?
And I use that term button masher very lightly because it's only a button masher if you're bad at it. So if you actually bother to learn more of the aspects of the gameplay and really tweak your character abilities to your liking, and I learned this the hard way through, hey, using shortcuts for magic is actually a big deal. I should have been doing this the whole time, and now I feel really stupid for having not done it. So the idea is that, and I'm going to be using this example entirely based on the setup of the PlayStation controller. Sorry, Xbox users. So with the PlayStation controller, let's say that Sora's basic attacks are all fueled on the X button.
Okay.
So if I look at an enemy, it does have a loose auto lock system. So if I'm facing any type of enemy, like I'm facing Fender right now, let's say I'm about to attack him, it'll kind of hover an orangish cursor over him. And if I attack him, I'll stay locked onto him throughout my entire sequence. However, if my brief battle sequence kind of ends and another enemy comes into my line of sight that takes precedence over that other one, I will re-auto lock to the nearest enemy and keep going from there. However, I can hit R1 at any time to actually lock onto an enemy, so I only attack them no matter how near or far they are.
So
wherever
then
you are, my heart will go on. Okay, continue.
Would that then correlate maybe closer? I'm just trying to relate it to a game I've played. That sounds something similar to Bayonetta. I know Bayonetta's super combo heavy
Maybe.
and like, but still, and how like there are enemies that coming at you, and maybe Christian, if you've played something, I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine in my head, but I don't want to spend too much time on this.
I know
because
this
there's a
doesn't
lot to
help
cover.
you personally very much, but I think the most similar game that I could equate it to, or series of games, would be the more recent Final Fantasy games, which are based on the real-time combat
I have seen
system.
a lot of that because my buddy Michael,
Yeah.
When he was living with us for a little bit, that's when he was playing that.
Yes.
And so, okay.
So
I know what that is.
Definitely more of a closer equation. Where the really interesting and fun aspects come in, at least for me, these could have been in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I was just too stupid to realize it. I was really bad at games back in ye olden times, is using the magic system effectively. So part of all of Sora's abilities are he has his Keyblade. If you mash the X button, you will do automatic combos.
Okay.
It's really fun and it feels great. Doing any type of combo, ground combo, aerial combo on any enemies or numbers of enemies, it's always fun. Every time. I never got tired of it. But learning how to then accurately layer that onto using your magic, presetting shortcuts to be like, okay, if I hold down one and I mash the circle button in my case to match that to the fire magic ability, that knocks a shit ton of life off of certain enemies. And you're like, oh my God, I could really be helping myself a lot more right now if I were using this. And that's not even counting what, I don't know what the game calls them. I kind of skipped over a lot of the tutorial and just kind of figured out stuff by mashing buttons. I'm not going to lie. I know, I'm probably breaking his heart. But there are all kinds.
I actually play very similar to you from what I'm gathering.
I'm doing my best to accurately convey what I played. But a big part of the game that is super fun for me are these special moves, these combo moves that you can do in conjunction with the other people on your squad. So, of course, Sora is perennially linked to his bestest pals in the whole wide world, Donald and Goofy.
Okay.
So, respectively, Goofy is kind of like your tank, per se. I think he has more health. He doesn't have a lot of magic, but his strength is really high.
Okay.
And then you have Donald, who has a ton of MP. Not that much health, not that much strength, but he's your magic caster. He's not supposed to have those things.
Right.
So they help you in all of your battles. You do not control them directly. They work completely independent of you. You can tweak them a little bit from the main menu. You can give them different equipment, kind of make them do different things. I never bothered to make them any different than what they currently were, except for maybe their equipment. Because I was like, that's too much stuff. I've only got 3 days on this rental. I can't be bothering with this. But they are your helpers, and primarily their relationship to Sora, aka me in game, was please heal me. I have no health and I really need you to heal me right now because I am not going to use potions. I don't know how. It's the middle of battle.
Yeah.
Just please do it for me. But let's say, for example, that it's you, Donald, and Goofy, and you're all in a battle. And you get a certain number of hits on any type of enemy. You're basically just building power, sort of. You might then earn, I suppose, a special ability, which is, let's say, pirate ship. If I then smash the triangle button when it comes up on the command list to say pirate ship, it brings up this fantastic example of multi-level marketing that I have ever seen in my life. It's amazing. So a ton of your special abilities, as layered with Donald and Goofy specifically, some of the others aren't quite so obvious, they're all kind of based on like Disney rides. And it's like, oh my God, this is so smart for like Disney marketing. I totally get why they did it. And they also serve a function in the game. So let's say I trigger pirate ship. This really fun cutscene comes up and it's bright and colorful and very pow in your face. And this magical pirate ship made totally of lights shows up. And you basically just swing around and mash X and damage a bunch of stuff. And then when the special timer basically runs out, you get a finishing move and it does its spiel, whatever it is, and you do, bam, a ton of damage to everything that's in the radius of the special move. The same thing applies to what appears to be Splash Mountain. The same thing applies to a carousel. The same thing applies to the teacups. They put the teacups in the game. The teacups are so fun. So I was just I don't remember it being in Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2, and I was so charmed by it in this game, even though it clearly is super well done marketing.
Right.
I can't fault them for that. It's really nice. So that's a little bit of my personal hands-on experience with it.
Okay. So Christian, how about you? Having played the other games in the series so extensively, how does it stack up?
I think it took a lot of like the best parts of each game because the fun thing about, well, I say fun. A lot of people might not say fun, but like the cool thing for me, in my opinion, anyways, the Kingdom Hearts getting to show up on different consoles, whether it's like home consoles or handhelds, is that different technologies sometimes offer unique kinds of gameplay or innovations in what the command style or fight style will be. And yeah, I think they took like all the favorite parts from the different games and just like really finely tuned them for Kingdom Hearts 3. It's like really, you were mentioning before that when you played the 1 and 2, you didn't do a lot of like, you just kind of mainly fought like kind of hack and slash, right? Like you didn't do a lot of like get into the nitty gritty. And I honestly didn't do that either. I would watch like some of my friends, they'll post their let's plays of the game, and like they would do all these different tricks and combos and things, and it's kind of like in a fighting game when people would know how to tell like, oh, the enemy did this thing, so that means I know like what's gonna happen next. And, like there's so much nitty gritty to it, but I really wasn't so much involved with that. Usually I just played whatever and didn't do summons. I didn't usually do any special moves, things like that. But in Kingdom Hearts 3, all those things are so much more accessible that like it's almost a no-brainer. It's really intuitive, I think. These things that in past games I was like, wait, so how do I do that again? This one, it's like I just assume it's a lot easier. There's an easier barrier to entry with those special moves and things like that. So the game, yeah, if I wanted, I could just like, crash X the whole time and just like power through. But it's really great that these other mechanics are in there because they make what's already a fun they make what's already a fun hack and slash even much more stylized and like really beautiful to look at with like these beautiful particle effects and,
awesome.
And animations and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun not only to watch but to play and to try out these different things that I usually didn't make the time for in the past entries.
So then what would you say then, how does it rank, I guess, to the other games in the series?
As far as gameplay, it's my favorite because, like I said, it's really fine-tuned all those other the other mechanics. There's a few gameplay mechanics that are missing, but I can see like how they were evolved from past games that I kind of miss. But at the same time, it's like I'm still having a lot of fun with it. I feel like I can describe this pretty well, but like in Birth by Sleep had one of my favorite combat systems where you would start fighting and then through a combo, if you threw in a magic move, like say fire, then that would unlock a special new set of commands, all fire-based,
Okay.
Or if you were fighting and then introduced an ice spell, then now you would unlock an ice kind of combat system. Now, and I really liked that. It felt more like more strategic. Like, all right, put in these hits, have my spell ready, make sure it's good to go. Like, I like that strategy to it. And it's still kind of there, but it's different. Now you can still kind of have different command style changes, but it's all based off the weapon you have now. Usually you would have a weapon, a Keyblade. I don't know. I'm trying to be super spoiler free. Guess what, guys? It's called the Keyblade.
It's fine. It's a pretty standard thing in Kingdom Hearts.
But now you change your fight style by changing to the Keyblade, which has been made much more easier. Like I said, usually if you want to change your Keyblade, you pause, go into the menu, and sometimes if you're in the middle of combat, you can't go into the menu. You have to just do a regular pause. But now, just hitting left and right on the pad, on the command D-pad, now you can just change, your Keyblade with the flip.
That's one of the best things that I've found about the game is that you can equip Sora with, at least for me, 3 Keyblades at a time. And it's not like he's holding all 3 of them.
Like in his backpack,
he only has in his backpack, his magic backpack. Yeah. There we go. But yeah, if you just tab left and right on the D-pad, you can just switch between your Keyblades at will, like between moves on enemies. It's really easy to do. It feels really nice in game, and it enables you to rapidly adjust your strategy. If you're like, why am I doing these dudes no damage? oh yeah, I'm trying to hack at him with my magic keyblade. Of course that's not going to work. I need to readjust my strategy.
So question then, and I'm assuming this is like a typical RPG element in these games. You can have different keyblades. What are the differences between the keyblades?
Pixel may be able to expand on this more, but I've found that they tend to be just kind of like balanced versus more geared towards magic versus more geared towards strength.
Okay.
I could be wrong about that.
I mean, that's not a bad way to put it. I usually compare it to any RPG, whether you're playing Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, whatever have you. As you progress through different worlds or towns or whatever, you start from the wooden sword, go to a broadsword, go to the legendary sword.
Right.
It kind of works the same way. Every new world you visit introduces a new weapon that's themed around that weapon, and usually the further you get in the story, obviously whatever keyblade you pick up in the third world would be a bit more stronger in magic and physical attack versus whatever you had at the beginning. But now the new kind of caveat or whatever is that now not only are you looking at the difference in the magic and the physical attack, but you're also seeing what new command style will that keyblade unlock.
Okay, cool.
There's also an entire subset of, I suppose, gameplay features that I think are really fun for me personally because I love this kind of thing in RPGs specifically, is that when you are going around the world and just beating up random crates, when you're defeating enemies, they have drops, of course. They give you materials. And part of the system of making yourself bigger and better is that you can use the synthesis, which the game has in the main menu, to upgrade your keyblades. So even if you get bigger and better keyblades later on in the game, if you really liked the one that you got in World 2, you can just upgrade it. And presuming that you have the materials to continue those upgrades, you can still make sure that you're scaling those weapons up to the end game as opposed to halving or feeling like you're being forced to move on from them if you really liked their play style, which I found fantastic because, not gonna lie, OG Kingdom Keyblade, I love it. Might be my favorite one because it's like, I don't need all those fancy flashes.
Just give me the old
Just
faithful.
give me the good old faithful Keyblade. Exactly.
Okay. So how are we doing in terms of spoiler-free, ready to jump into spoilers? Like anything else in the spoiler-free territory we want to really jump on?
I'm just going to give two little anecdotes based off that last thing we said about. So funny you mentioned about how there's the feature of upgrading the Keyblades. I was just so focused on the story that I totally missed that both times.
Oh my god! It's the best feature. Not the best feature. That's an exaggeration, but I really liked it from myself because I was like, I don't like the other Keyblade that I just got from Blank World. Spoilers. I want to use this one that I got in the very beginning, so I just kept upgrading it so that I could actually not have to use any of the new ones. I'm old and I don't like change. Which is kind of like
what I said at the beginning, how like this next third playthrough, I'm really going to be happy to finally really get into the nitty gritty on some of those features because I don't know how I missed both times. Well, I can understand the first time. I probably just didn't read it right and understand. But even during my second time during the English, for some reason I didn't notice that you could level up your Keyblade. So I actually just did, whenever I entered a new world, just started adopting that Keyblade. So that's like another thing I'm really looking forward to trying in this next playthrough is like really leveling up and synthesizing my Keyblade. That said, there's this kind of funny thing that I ended up doing during my playthrough the first time around was that, the great thing about Kingdom Hearts always done is that, like, kind of props to it is this weird attention to detail where whatever Keyblade you're using in combat or traversing the world, that is the same Keyblade Sora will be holding when there's a cutscene going on. And that's always cool. Like,
that is fun.
It doesn't break the illusion. It's like, it's kind of seem more seamless. Like you enter a boss battle and there's a cutscene and you're holding that special Keyblade that you had from that world. But sometimes it can be very silly. This is a game that, it's, kind of for, lighthearted. There's, some drama and stuff, but it's also supposed to be very lighthearted. So you have very fun Keyblades. And like very early in the game, there was a very dramatic moment and Sora's holding the Toy Story Keyblade. And I was like, this doesn't seem right. And
it's really what's it called? The contrast is really startling when you roll up to like a world of darkness and shadows. And it's this very intense scene, and you're standing there with your toy Keyblade, and you're like, we're gonna take you down. And it's like, are we? Because it feels like we're not really intimidating them with our current loadout.
That's awesome. So I think the final question I have then, unless you had something else to add.
Yeah, so that was kind of just the setup for this weird quirk that I had during my playthrough, was that it was jarring for me, and I was recording gameplay of the footage I was recording my gameplay and the cutscenes and all that stuff, and I wanted in the cutscenes for Sora to be holding the Kingdom Key because it's classic, it's not distracting, it's it's the final journey so far, anyways, and so I want really. I just think it's very appropriate for Sora to have the Kingdom Key, the classic Kingdom Key. So you can have 3 Keyblades. I always had 2 strong ones, and then the Kingdom Key, which again I did not realize I could level it up. And so it would always be, I would be in a boss battle, and sometimes boss battle is really tricky, and I would wait till he's almost out of health, and then I'd switch over to the Kingdom Key.
Oh, clever.
But sometimes all it took was me switching my Keyblade over for them to get the upper hand a bit, and I had a lot of very close calls, which I was like, I can't believe I put myself through this, like almost dying at the final boss. Like,
it's art, man. You got to get that.
Just because I want the
gotta look good.
I do really appreciate that investment in like the artistic view, though. I love that. That's commitment, man. And that actually, so in talking about all of that, that did bring up one more technical aspect that I want to mention, just because I've been having a lot of fun with it, which is that Kingdom Hearts 3 does have a fantastic variety of what I would consider side quests and mini games.
Okay.
It's hilarious to see now in like 2019, Sora upgraded to like a smartphone. It's really fascinating. It's like, oh, look, he's with the times now.
Technology.
You might even call it an iPad because it's the size of his whole head. But he's basically got this smartphone that has unlocked all of these little mini games that you can play just like you play on your actual phone.
Cool.
Hey, I don't want to go fight the bad guys. I want to sit here and play my literal mini games to the broader game. There's also a fantastic system of, I guess you would call it like a scavenger hunt, which is the cooking system that you can take to Remy the Rat from Ratatouille, and you can give him ingredients and you get to cook stuff. And it's actually really fun. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. I love this. So in addition to some really nice and tight battle gameplay, there's also a whole host of things that can keep people busy on the sides. And that's really all I wanted to say about that, because I've been really liking it.
Okay. So I want to jump into the spoiler stuff pretty quick, but I just had one question that I want to kind of keep brief so we can spend a little bit more time in the spoiler stuff. So I guess my whole confusion as before today was not understanding then how this series connected with Disney. And I know, because in my head, everybody before Avengers, the last one came out, Infinity War came out, everybody was like, it's the most ambitious crossover of all time, and I'm like, no, that's Kingdom Hearts for me.
Idiots, it's Kingdom Hearts
because that seems to be so much more of an ordeal. But so I get it from the video and from what we've said that it seems that like the Disney world are just part of these different worlds that you can go to through the key portals. So I thought though that there was more of a heavier Disney influence in the first two, other than it being more centered around Mickey, Minnie, Daffy. Not Daffy, Donald. Wrong cartoon duck.
Same thing.
Donald and Goofy, with some other, villains and things scattered in, like Sal Maleficent was a big key. Pete from Goofy's Nemesis, I guess, is another big one in there. So in this one, then all the worlds that they visit just so happen to be Disney-themed worlds. Is that correct?
So here's actually a really interesting distinction in Kingdom Hearts 3 that I don't think was in any of the previous ones. KH3 is the first time that Square has been able to partner with both Disney and Pixar because Disney acquired Pixar. And it's actually really interesting to see this happen in real time. And it's something that I kind of noticed but didn't quite put the key pieces together of until I read an article about it. Can't remember the article right now. Sorry, everybody. It's probably on IGN. But the gist was some hero among men and women reached out to Square to discuss what was it like working with Disney. And one of the most fascinating parts of that article that I found was that Square seemed to actually really enjoy working with Disney, even when it got down to the nitty gritty. It was very precise, we'll say.
Yeah.
But something even more interesting was they pointed out the differences in working with the teams from Disney versus working from the teams with Pixar. And the best example I can give of this is actually kind of spoilery, so tune out if you don't want to hear this. The two best examples I can provide based on what I've played so far are, let's take the Toy Story level versus the Frozen level. The Tangled level, excuse me. This is just for example. So in the Tangled level, it's of course based on the Rapunzel Disney movie. You could say, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are launched into the kingdom of Corona right smack on top of the movie. They are there from the beginning of the movie through what is the end of the movie, and their entire level takes place right in concurrence with the movie as a whole.
Okay.
Juxtapose that with the Toy Story level, which is not in any way, shape, or form like that. And that's because Pixar said, no, Square, you cannot take our game and put your stuff into what is essentially our movie. You have to make your own separate thing kind of based around our thing.
Okay.
Whereas Disney was like, you can use our thing, but it has to be very, very exact to what we want you to do.
Right.
So that's why, for example, you get the level like the Toy Story level, which canonically, air quotes, takes place approximately between movies 2 and 3,
Okay.
but in its own separate capsule. It's a completely separate story of what any of the Toy Story movies were versus the Tangled level, which is literally on top. It is layered on top of the story subject matter.
Okay.
I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, that is interesting. An interesting way they went about that. So let's go ahead then and transition into the spoiler stuff. Fender furs?
Who knows?
Who knows? But so we'll go ahead and go into that. So again, if you don't want spoilers for this game, turn away now. You know, I've got the time stamps down below for the different sections, so you can skip ahead to our soundtrack spotlight and all that stuff if you want at this point. But for now, yeah, it's spoiler time. So, and I was planning on this episode being longer because I knew there's a lot to unpack.
It's going to be
here.
long.
So let's jump in to this stuff, to the spoiler stuff, and you guys can go about that any way you want. If you know favorite moments from the game, parts you didn't like specifically, different story things, just go crazy
So
in all these worlds.
just gonna pivot,
gonna pivot?
Pixel just a little, just a little.
I'll just lean back and studiously listen.
So I feel like I really want to hear your perspective first because I am likely to finish the game at some point, but I will say right up front, I'm glad I rented the game rather than purchased it because there definitely are parts of it that I've really enjoyed, primarily the gameplay, but the story overall, I really kind of haven't been super wowed yet. And maybe it's just because I'm old and bitter now. You never know. Maybe it's because I'm not the childlike, pure heart of light that I used to be when I was a kid. But I often find myself going through cutscenes and dialogue and just thinking, God, I wish they would speed this up. My problem is that I was always worried to hit the skip scene button, which thank God they put that in there for starters, because if you're trying to speed run it, or even if you just played it before, that's a fantastic feature that was not in Kingdom Hearts 1. Let me tell you, buddy, that wasn't in there. So I was worried about skipping scenes, though, because, yes, there are the Disney scenes, which are primarily about the movies and the subject matter that the different worlds are taking place in. But there's also all of the primary story of Kingdom Hearts, which has to do with the organization and what their ultimate goal is, and of course Xehanort's grand schemes, his just super villainy. I was always worried that an organization member would splice themselves right in to the scene and I would accidentally miss their input, which was honestly the stuff that I was much more interested in, even though a lot of it felt like catch up, I would say, because Sora himself has lost so many of his memories. He keeps encountering these new organization members only because he doesn't remember them. And I honestly did kind of find myself getting tired of that encounter after the first couple of times that I saw it, just because I was like, all right, we've been through this, Sora. We know you've got no memories. Just be rolling with it faster than what you're doing now. So I think a lot of that may have been due to it's been a 10-year gap. They feel like maybe they need to put a little bit of refresher in here, but I kind of wanted to get your input on that and see what your hopefully more pure-hearted feelings were about this experience.
Well, I can see how it can seem a bit tedious that like we keep having these scenes that seem like they don't go anywhere because I don't know if you would call Sora an unreliable narrator in the traditional sense, but in a way it is, but just because he in the Kingdom Hearts sense of things has this kind of amnesia of not having memories from different times he's met or crossed paths with some of these people. And I think I saw like a lot of critique of that too, that like why aren't we getting to like the Kingdom Hearts lore stuff sooner? But I mean, traditionally it's always been like that. I think people just forget or they didn't think it would happen. But no, if you look at the other games too, like it's kind of Kingdom Hearts 3 is kind of following the similar, like you'll sprinkle the lore stuff throughout the first 2/3, and then in the last act that's when it'll get lore heavy. But that, you know, you're mainly going through the Disney stories to reinforce the messages and concerns that are being sprinkled throughout. So to me, it wasn't really a surprise, and I kind of went in kind of expecting that. So I didn't notice it too much, or I didn't find it as jarring. But you're not alone. I definitely saw a lot of people saying kind of similar things, like, why are we having these scenes again? And stuff like that. So.
And again, I don't want to say that's necessarily a critique of the game from my part. Mm-hmm. I genuinely do think part of it is just that my heart is like shriveled and black. And I'm just like, your happiness
you don't seem
makes
like this
me
dark
sad.
Of a person on the show. But,
just every time. I swear to Christmas, in the Toy Story level in particular, which I actually really enjoyed. I liked it a lot. Every single cutscene was about Buzz and Woody reinforcing their friendship with each other. And I was like, we freaking know.
Did they just say you got a friend in me at every cutscene?
No, but they were like, I trust you, man.
I trust you too.
And then the other one would be like, I trust you, man. I was just like, oh my God, stop talking.
You've been friends since movie one. I don't think that's going to change now.
Movie 1, we freaking know. I was just so mad that they kept talking about it. But by the same token, I was like, this is what I expect from Kingdom Hearts. It has always been about this super overt celebration of friendship. Mm-hmm. So I was equal.
It's never been very subtle.
Yeah, no, it's not
I think that's what I always liked about it. I think, you know, the subtlety has its place, and I can definitely appreciate it, but I am more of a fan of, here is the metaphor. We're putting it right in front of you. We're going to trace it. We're going to put neon lights on it, too, to say...
It's going to literally be the shape of a heart in the sky that lights up the whole sky like the moon. And I both love and hate it. The love part of me is like, yes, a giant moon heart in the sky. Yeah. I love it. And the other part of me is like, what is happening right now? So it's definitely this, like, I feel like Riku must feel. I feel like I'm constantly at war with myself over, do I hate it or do I love it? The jury is still out. And I do think that you brought up a good point of, I'm not finished with the game. Mm-hmm. And I definitely do think that in order to get the full picture, especially if the majority of the lore, which is what I'm really interested in, is end-loaded, I guess you could say, I think that I do need to finish it before I can give a final opinion on it. Okay. So far what I've played, I love. I think that in terms of spoilers, most of what I personally have encountered so far is just based around the Disney movies. It's really not that spoilery in terms of the story of Kingdom Hearts 3. So for all of that, we're going to have to rely on this guy.
Alrighty. So what were some of your like highlights, or I guess, or what moments of the story stood out to you as being especially impactful or just special?
I don't watch a lot of animated movies repeatedly, so going through these movies again essentially was really cool, and like that was a fun part, which I think a lot of people might have the opposite reaction. Like you mentioned, like you'd seen Tangled like 5 times, so it's like, here we go again. And I think a lot of people will say that same sentiment, like, oh, like here we go again with Frozen and this and that, but a lot of those I haven't seen in like literally years. So for me, those were really fun and refreshing. Like I'm almost thinking about Kingdom Hearts every day. So the lore stuff, as much as I'm excited for that, like I'm already kind of used to that and being in that and forums and this and that and, you know, theory videos. But then like, oh, what? I haven't seen Frozen the story or Tangled since the release, so seeing that again is really fun and exciting for me. So that's kind of a bit of a departure from, I think, what normal people, or not what most people were excited about or found fun for it. But
quick
for me,
caveat to that,
reliving those stories again or seeing them happen again was a lot of fun. And I don't know. I think I had like an opposite reaction where just being apart from these Disney stories for so long ended up playing through them again. I fell in love with them all over again, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I definitely see where you're coming from, and I feel like that is the other perspective that we needed. Because if it had just been me up here ranting about how like bitter I am, it wouldn't have been any fun. You've got to have somebody else on the other side of the table who has had a totally opposite experience. I have watched all of the Disney movies 1,000 times, and I'm not sorry. But even so, hearing Elsa sing "Let It Go" again in Kingdom Hearts, I was like, yes. This is what I wanted.
I mean, I totally understand why this game does have such a big appeal, because so many people do have it. Just taps right into that childhood nostalgia that so many of us do have, especially for Disney movies.
So real quick, that brings up another very important half of the coin that I found notably lacking in Kingdom Hearts 3, and I don't know if it was just me or if that's something that's been the trend all along that I never really noticed. So Kingdom Hearts 3 has a ton of representation of the Disney movies, but I was seeing none of the Final Fantasy representation.
A lot of people made mention of that. Because that is usually the pitch. Kingdom Hearts was Final Fantasy meets Disney.
And I mean, the character designs are certainly very Final Fantasy-esque for everyone that isn't Disney or Pixar-owned properties. But I was kind of wondering, like, where did everybody from, what's it called? Hollow Bastion. I was like, where's the whole crew from Hollow Bastion? Where's Cloud and Squall and Aerith? And I was actually really kind of bummed that I didn't encounter any of those characters, at least in what I've played so far. And I really kind of want to know why. And I have no additional information currently at this time on why that is. Do you have any theories?
Go ahead. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I was asking, do you have any theories or input on that?
So there are a few theories, and then there's a few theories, and then a few, I don't know if theories is the word, but kind of like speculation or conclusions being drawn. So we visit different Disney worlds, right? Most in the other games, usually you would run into these Final Fantasy characters, not in the Disney worlds, because, well, they don't belong there. You would find them in these original Kingdom Hearts world. In Kingdom Hearts 1, you'd find a lot of Final Fantasy characters in Traverse Town. And then in Kingdom Hearts 2, you found them, like you said, at Hollow Bastion. And so you would assume in this timeline, that's where you would still find them. But by the nature of the game and where the story takes us, Sora never goes to those worlds. So it's kind of like, by default, I guess we wouldn't see them there unless you were to start putting more of them in the Disney worlds. But I feel like you already have these stories that are packed with the original Disney characters, and we're already putting Sora, Donald, and Goofy and bosses in there. I could see how like it'd be like, wait, are we also going to squeeze Final Fantasy characters in there too? I guess that like is kind of one of those things that like, yeah, it would have been cool to have them in here, but it didn't make sense story-wise. And where we have the way we've written the story, we just don't have Sora going to these worlds, which was like something people mentioned, and like, wait, why aren't we going to these worlds? Why aren't we going there? And there's not really an answer for that. The theory is like, man, I can't believe we're talking about this spoiler stuff here. Like, the theory is that the next mainline or spin-off Kingdom Hearts will be a Square Enix focused game.
The what now? The next what now? I thought we were done.
No, actually, Nomura, the director and creator of Kingdom Hearts, has said like a few times, which I could be getting it wrong. It might be missed in translation. Obvious, and people change their minds even. So whatever he said back then, he's in full right to change his mind or his direction or whatever. But from what a lot of us in the community have been led to believe, he had mentioned before that Kingdom Hearts is a franchise, and it will always keep going, and Sora will always be the center of this.
Oh, wow.
Kingdom Hearts 3 is the end of the Xehanort saga.
Oh,
Much
so maybe
like,
I've been
in
thinking
Star
about it
Wars,
all
like-
wrong.
So
Like-
no more Sora and these like characters and everything that are in here. Because who does the voice of Sora?
Something Olsen?
Haley Joel Osment.
Oh,
Hey,
Haley Joel
that's what
Osment.
I
Okay,
said.
Okay. So, because I feel like I saw an article something about him talking about doing the last time he was Sora. So maybe they're just changing actors, or and I could be wrong. I could have misread that.
So I hadn't heard that, but if he did say he's never playing Sora again, the game has gone through different voice actors for different characters. He's been the one that's been there the whole time. Him and I think his name is David Gallagher, who played Riku. But very few of the characters have been throughout the whole series. So if he decided he's pretty old.
Yeah. You can
so
only
if
play
you
a
wanted to-
15-year-old for so long.
If you wanted to pass the voice to someone else as another actor, that's definitely a possibility. But voice acting aside, Nomura has always said, like, Kingdom Hearts is an ongoing thing. Kingdom Hearts 3 is a big deal because we're finally putting a bow and tying the strings on this villain's arc.
Oh, okay.
Every main title and side story in the DS or whatever, those have all been influenced through this one villain, this puppet master, and we're finally putting a close to that chapter. But there will still be more Kingdom Hearts games. Some of them will be mainline, some of them may be spin-offs and stuff like that. But as far as the Xehanort saga, as they call it, or that's the end of that's what Kingdom Hearts 3 is. But
Okay, that's actually some really helpful context to have. Yeah.
Yeah, that really is. And I Googled it just to see if I was completely off base, but it was a GQ article that's titled Haley Joel Osment on playing a kid one last time in Kingdom Hearts 3. So they're teasing in that title as well.
Also speculating
that
Gotcha.
there could be more and he might be done. Okay, so I thought I had seen that, but wanted to be sure before I just spit lines out there.
Yeah. So then circling around to
go
ahead,
throw
sorry.
more like just wood on the fire. So another reason why people are speculating that the next Kingdom Hearts 3 will be what brings back all the Final Fantasy and stuff is that there is a secret ending to the movie. I don't know if I should talk about it because you're not there yet.
That's okay. So I'm the kind of person who, even with massive story spoilers, I will still enjoy the game. You can tell me all about it and I'm still going to love it. So go right ahead.
Yeah,
all right. So...
And I don't care.
There's
so.
What was that?
And I said, it's not like this is not a game that some games. Yes, I don't want any kind of spoiler at all. This one, I could probably. I'm okay with spoilers. So
He'll
go
be
right
all
ahead.
right.
I'll live.
All right. Well, the credits roll. The movie closes out. This and that. Thank you for coming. There's a secret ending where Sora finds himself in a strange new land. He looks around, he sees asphalt on the ground, neon lights, 4-door sedans, very familiar, and Japanese writing all around, and a giant towering building with the numbers 104 written at the top. Now, with the vague description I gave, you might guess he is in our world, maybe.
Right.
But that 104 takes it out of our world into a fictional version of our world, and that is the Nintendo interpretation of Shibuya from The World Ends With You.
Oh, I was wondering about that because in the very beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3, one of the circling panels of memories has a bunch of the characters from The World Ends With You, and I was like, what's that?
Yeah, they made a very brief cameo appearance in Dream Drop Distance, one of the spin-off games, a lot of people were. So the shared DNA between Kingdom Hearts and World Ends With You is that The World Ends With You, even though it wasn't directed or exactly created by Tetsuya Nomura, he provided a lot of the character designs, and I think the team that he had worked with before made that team. So there's a lot of shared DNA there, even though it's not exactly a Tetsuya Nomura game. His name is definitely usually associated with that.
Okay.
And it's so much so that those characters made their way into Kingdom Hearts, and so we're kind of seeing that come around full circle, or whatever you want to call it, because not only is he in a place that looks like Japan, there's this very specific landmark that is very clearly World Ends With You. Another thing is that we see. So, do you remember how the Toy Story world started?
Yeah, with them talking about how their friends had disappeared because their world had essentially
No, I mean literally the cutscene that starts.
The cutscene? No.
You didn't see the fake Final Fantasy trailer?
Yes! Oh my god, I was freaking out. Okay, so I actually wanted to bring this up because it blew my mind when it happened. They totally got me. I thought that it was like the new wave of video game marketing, where like somehow they had spliced in a literal commercial for a totally different video game, and I was like, oh my god, the future is now, and I hate it.
I was about to say that could have made everybody really mad, or they would have been like, this is funny this one time.
I was so confused, and then like it kind of wide screened out, and you were in a room, and I think it was Rex Dinosaur.
Yeah, Rex.
Sure, I forget what his name is. He's playing a video game, and it's like the commercial for the video game, and I was like, oh, okay, I gotcha. But at first I was real mad, and then I was like, okay, so that's gonna be funny. A new thing.
So the characters that show up in that fake trailer also show up in this world that, you know, Sora finds himself in. Oh. And the fake trailer that plays during the Toy Story world has a lot of uncanny similarity to the original trailers that came out for Versus 13 before it had become transformed into Final Fantasy 15. There was a completely different direction with what those characters would be doing and what that game would be like. And that was originally going to be directed by Tetsuya Nomura, creator of Kingdom Hearts, until it went and passed on to Hajime Tabata, that turned it into Final Fantasy 15. So, like, the kind of theory is that that trailer was Nomura being like, hey, I still had this story I wanted to tell, and that secret ending is like, hey, he might just tell it now. You know, and everybody's always wanted a sequel to The World Ends With You. We got the Switch re-release recently.
Right.
But before that, we'd only gotten like a mobile port, and people really I really loved The World Ends With You. So the fact that Sora is now in a very cool HD looking version of that, and we've got this kind of rebirth of what the Versus 13 was going to be like. A lot of people, like myself included, I'm on the bandwagon of thinking that the next Kingdom Hearts, whether it's a full-on number 4 or a spin-off, will probably have much more Square Enix influence. So I think we'll finally see those characters again there.
I didn't know any of that, like broader context, and now I am so glad that I know it, because one of my favorite parts about the Toy Story level were the use of mechs, because even though you're shrunk down to toy size, Sora can actually inhabit these toy mechs that are from this other video game that's presented in the Toy Story level. And then you actually briefly get transported into the game itself, and you get to like play through a mock level. And I was like, I love being in mechs. I love this kind of game. So if that winds up being a broader mechanic of hopefully a future Kingdom Hearts game, I would totally be on board with that 100%.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully anyone who missed Final Fantasy characters making their appearance in 3 will hopefully have that redeemed in whatever comes next.
Fantastic. So we are running a little short on time now. We're going a little long. So summarizing then, you mentioned earlier tying a bow on the package of the storyline of Xehanort. So at the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3, would you say that your expectations were met or exceeded by the ending that you got?
They were like... Well, as far as expectations, I didn't know what to expect, but it did meet most of my expectations. A few things didn't play out quite how I thought, but as far as like having a conclusion for how everyone... So Xehanort just keeps leaving tragedy wherever he goes, and just destroys families, destroys friendships, and that's usually how most of these games end. And going into 3, the expectation, or at least the hope, is I hope all these pieces that are up in the air will land, you know, where they should, you know, and finally have a little peace. And I don't know. So as far as how a lot of the stories ended up playing out, I'm like pretty satisfied. Like, oh, cool. We did get endings for these characters who we were not really sure would even show up in the story, let alone would we get an ending with them. And I'd say as far as like those loose ends goes with characters, like we get a lot of like that's like we get a pretty nice little epilogue, not epilogue, but a final scene, because there is actually a scene called an epilogue, which has nothing to do with all that. But by the end of it, we do feel pretty satisfied with most of the characters and knowing, okay, this is what life is like for them now, and there's only a few mysteries left, but those are mysteries that you can only assume will be explored in other games. The threads left open are all threads that actually have connections to the Kingdom Hearts mobile game, which is still receiving story updates. So in addition to the whole Square Enix side of things, people are also thinking that that's where we'll also tie up whatever loose ends were left from the mobile game and whatever few bits of stories didn't get resolved in 3. But most of the big pieces of what people wanted to see, come to a conclusion did meet some form of satisfying conclusion in 3.
Good to know.
Good to know, indeed.
All right.
Well, I think...
Have we exhausted the extent? Surely
not.
I'm
sure that you guys can keep going for forever and ever and ever. And,
we certainly could.
But I have to say, this is, for someone who knows nothing about this was incredibly helpful. And my interest in it is raised from what it was. Will I still ever play it? I don't know.
I'm not going to lie. I genuinely think you would not like it.
And that's where I still land.
Yeah.
I understand it better, and I have a better appreciation for it, and how incredibly intertwined and engaging this story is. I have incredible respect for that, especially after watching that video and hearing both of your summaries on these games. But yeah, it still just, for me, doesn't look like it's going to be necessarily something that I will enjoy.
I mean,
but
you're
at least
not
I
a
understand
massive
it better.
fan of JRPG mechanics.
Right.
And when you combine that with what I feel are story aspects that I also think you wouldn't really gel super well with, you're not into the anime like some of us are.
No, not especially.
And it does kind of carry a lot of themes and characterizations, I suppose, that you would be a little bit more familiar with if you were fans of that kind of media. So I think that you might not like it. And considering how very many games you would have to catch up on,
so many,
your backlog does not need help.
No,
you've got enough. You don't need any more.
I would say if I ever did try to play them, it would be 3, because I feel like, especially with the Disney movies that I am also very familiar with, because what you're saying, you get into Cook with Remy from Ratatouille. Ratatouille is
so
one of my
fun.
favorite Pixar movies.
It's fantastic.
It's
what I actually
amazing.
really loved that they kept, I guess, canon in Kingdom Hearts is he doesn't actually talk because you're humans and you can't talk to him. And I was like, this is awesome. He's not supposed to be able to talk to you.
That's cool.
Even what's-his-face from the movie couldn't actually understand Remy. Good for them.
I don't remember what that dude's name is.
It also may have been that they couldn't afford Patton Oswalt to come back and reprise his role as Remy. I should ask him. He's on the Twitter.
They usually get pretty nice voice impersonators for the...
That's true.
Not Robin Williams, not Johnny Depp to play their characters. Props to James Woods, though, who almost always comes back, to actually play Hades.
Yeah, he does. Right. And which really makes it great because you really hate Hades, through all the games.
Well, I don't feel like he's necessarily supposed to be a stand-up guy.
Oh, he's not. Never mind. This is getting very off topic, but I kind of trying to wrap this up. Thank you so much for all of your super insightful input. I feel like I've I've learned a lot, and I've even
so much.
Sort of played the games. And this does actually make for me some additional interest in the auxiliary games, because I feel like maybe that's where I might find those story elements that I feel like I might be missing out on. So maybe I will actually go back and play some of those. I love me a good JRPG, and it would be nice to have more context around Kingdom Hearts 3, and I do definitely plan to finish it. So thank you so much for all of your fantastic discussion about this game.
It's been a lot of fun, and I never get tired of talking Kingdom Hearts, so it was I
know, because I can't remember if I asked at the beginning, but how many shows I've seen from your Twitter, following your Twitter, how many shows have you done so far? People wanting your expert opinion on this game. I know we're not the only ones.
Because there are some, and these are I've got some personal friends, not even just I saw so and so on the internet, but I have some friends that just they know it so much deeper than I do. So that's why I'm also just everyone should be interviewing and talking to these guys. So that's why I feel so fortunate to get a chance to share my voice a little bit about how much I love the game and what I think about it and stuff. But so far, it's been, I keep hoping to keep doing more of these, and I'm actually I'm trying not to get too much off topic, but probably by the time you release this, when's this coming out?
This will be, so we're recording it today is
It'll be the 19th.
the 11th. So yeah, the 19th this will go out.
Yeah, actually, it should be announced by the 15th. I'm going to start a new Twitter account. It's actually technically already started. You can follow it now if you wanted.
Ooh.
And it's just called PixelBrave KH. And it's just dedicated to only Kingdom Hearts content.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Everybody,
When
go follow it.
Kingdom-
PixelBrave KH.
Yeah, when playing Kingdom Hearts 3, like I said, I started shooting my reactions to different things. And I just found that really like fun. And I don't usually make a lot of game content. Like, usually, like I said, it's event videos that I do, but
Right.
I had a lot of fun, and I kept writing out different drafts of what would be story summaries, and I'm like, why don't I do something with all these things? And so, yeah, I'm now at twitter.com/pixelbravekh. That's where you can find me. I'm going to be putting video summaries for different games. I want to do just character videos, just like, this is what I think of Roxas, this is what I think of Sora, and post some of my favorite reactions that I posted. Like, I cried at the end of the intro for Kingdom Hearts 3. I'll be posting that. Like,
That's awesome.
Just different little reactions that I had, and that is just going to be a hub just for all the Kingdom Hearts stuff that I love. I know sometimes people don't like to see it flooding their feed, so that's why I'm just making a whole separate space for that. So
I will
if you like Kingdom Hearts 3,
100% follow for the character videos, because I feel like there's so many characters that I totally don't understand, but who I love, question mark, and I really want to know more about them. So that's awesome.
So that, yeah, so everybody, so this is the 19th then when this episode's out. So like he said, this is out already. You can go subscribe or go follow this over on Twitter at PixelBraveKH. So
Yeah.
give him a follow if you love Kingdom Hearts, or even if you don't love Kingdom Hearts, because he's a great guy.
right now it's bare bones because I don't want people to, get spoiled on something. I started posting like a few screenshots, but I was like,
Yeah.
wait, people are still playing the game. I made it when I was having the Japanese release, which was a few days earlier than US, and I was like, no, I gotta stop. I even like locked the page, but now it should be open. I'm starting to take a few requests and stuff like that, but hopefully by the time this releases, I'll be in kind of full swing, starting up on just little fun posts.
Awesome.
Stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to look into that as you create and post more into that channel. But before we go, we do have to do our soundtrack spotlight for this week, which I'm going to let Mogan take over here because, as you would have guessed, it's from Kingdom Hearts. So what song we got for us this week?
Well, what else can you say about the music of Kingdom Hearts than you have to have the name association with Utada Hikaru. She's the one who did the OG theme for Kingdom Hearts, and she's back again with the theme for Kingdom Hearts 3. I actually don't know what the title of it is. I just call it main theme. I'm sure
I can step in.
What's it called?
So Kingdom Hearts 1, she provided the awesome track, Simple and Clean, then came back in Kingdom Hearts 2 with Sanctuary, and then in 3, she came not with one, but 2 songs.
Oh, wow.
The intro song and outro song, the intro song of Face My Fears and the outro song of Don't Think Twice. Both very beautiful and unique songs, very different from each other, but still both very appropriate for this game.
We're
So then
going with
Face
the
My
intro song.
The intro. Oh, I thought you were going to say the end.
No,
So Face My Fears.
Face My Fears.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm so glad that she's back for the music because I think people are going to love this track. Really excited about it.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Well, with that, though, that brings this episode of Team Chat Podcast to a close. I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined by Rachel Mogan. And again,
Adios.
over the power of the internet, our friend Christian Puente, a.k.a. PixelBrave.
My friends are my power.
You
we
don't
go.
laugh. You don't get it. Your
Sorry,
friends are
but
your
I like
power.
the statement. Calling me out on my nerddom that I'm not
That's
caught up
okay.
on.
You can be part of our friendship, I guess.
So wait, what's it from?
Shut up. It's from Kingdom Hearts. Anyways, bye.
Duh, I should have guessed that. But with that, everybody, come back next week for another new episode on a fun gaming topic. Until then, we'll see you next time. Stick around for the song.
Let me face my fears.